Okay, so now we're going to talk about real estate and what to buy. Everybody asks me, Aaron, should I buy a house? Should I get an apartment building? I invest in quite a few condos, although I've done multifamilies in the past, and they are both good investments in their own ways. But what are the difference between these different things that you could buy in real estate? Well, let's go through them here real quick. Houses are the best introductory rental that you can buy. You can buy a house, or you can go move into a new house and rent behind the house that you used to live in, rent behind. These are the easiest and most idiot-proof ways to get into landlording. They have some of the highest appreciation rates of these different methods. They are a medium price to get into. You can buy a cheap house, a medium-sized house. Keep in mind that's probably the kind of tenant you'll be attracting, is the kind of house and neighborhood you lived in before renting out. They're the most versatile. So you can sell it, you can flip it, you can do owner financing, or you can do a lease option with somebody, or you can just rent it out, which is how I like to do mine, but there's lots of choices out there. It allows you the most freedom. You can remodel it, you can probably paint it, assuming you don't have a local HOA to deal with, any color you want. You can put in front and back decks. You can do just about anything to a house. So check with the local zoning and ordinances, and if there's a local HOA. Otherwise, houses allow you some of the best freedom. Some perks, so some of the perks of condos, I am in condos, they have a medium appreciation rate. They're not too bad. You maybe see about in the Seattle metro area, 11 to 13% for houses, maybe 9 or 10% for condos, but based on a particular neighborhood or complex, you might have even better than that. So it pays to invest in them. They have their own quirks. For example, they're low cost. I love that. It's one of the cheapest properties you can probably buy yourself into. You might have HOA issues, for example. If a condo complex is great, thank the management. If the condo management is terrible and it's people are moving out as fast as possible, the appreciation rate is low, the rents are low, well, thank the management. It's all about the management. You have the local HOA people who are volunteer members of their HOA board. I myself used to be the president of the condo complex where I currently live. I'm still the treasurer, and I show up every month and vote on things like how to maintain the pool or do the landscaping and that kind of thing. But you also have professional managers. Local property managers, usually it's the same kind of people who can manage rentals for you, and they collect the dues and pay the bills and that kind of thing. So they have some decent perks, but the HOA dues pay for the insurance for the property, but I still advise people to get renter's insurance and landlord insurance for that. So in other words, you own up to the paint. You can get a decent amount of rent in there, but you do have to have some kind of insurance in case your water tank leaks down on the unit below yours or something like that. I like it because you don't have any hoarders or anything. You only own up to the paint. The condos I own don't have garages or anything. There's no large storage facilities. And I don't have to worry about whether or not a tenant is mowing the lawn because the HOA mows the lawn. The HOA maintains the shrubbery and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a nice way to keep things locked into a easily controllable cube when you own enough cubes. The other thing to tell your grouchy uncle is there, he says, what about those dues? They keep raising the dues. Well, I'd rather them raise the dues a little bit and keep ahead of expenses and prevent what's called a special assessment, where they have to raise everybody's dues a lot to catch up to a capital improvement they should have been keeping an eye on than otherwise. And also keep in mind, they have low property tax. The condo I live in and the ones that I own as rentals are some of the lowest places in the Seattle metro area to pay property tax on. So that's something that balances out the homeowner dues, in my opinion. By the way, the homeowner dues are tax deductible because it's a business. And even the condo I live in, some of its utilities and HOA dues are deductible because that's where I have my home-based business to manage my other condos. So keep that in mind. Apartment buildings are terrific if you can get into them. They have decent appreciation. They're high cost, though. They're going to be on the upper end. In the Seattle area, a fourplex is going to cost $600,000 to $800,000. Apartment buildings of 5 to 6 units easily can be $1.5 to $2 million. If it's above about 20 units in the Seattle area, you're looking at multi-millions. Now, in places like Texarkana or something like that, maybe you can get away with more, and the rents will be lower, but the buy-in cost will be lower. So that's something to keep in mind. Here's some quirks. You want to make sure you don't inherit a bunch of low market tenants because maybe they're paying below market rent. The other thing is you have to be careful of the local landlord laws on any of these, but especially with apartment buildings. In the Seattle area, if you relocate a bunch of people, if you raise the rent, they all have to move, then you might have to pay the relocation costs of them. Didn't think of that, did you? The other case is local rent control. I wouldn't want to buy in any state or municipality that had rent control and stuff like that. So be careful with how you do that. You have to treat any of these, but especially apartment buildings, as a business, and it will pay you like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, well, it'll pay you like a hobby, which is not much. Here's a quirky one. Land. Yes, you can buy land, and yes, you can make money on it. It has the highest potential upside. It also has a lot of risks. You can have, you have to do geotech studies. Is it on a slope that's going to slide away from you in the next rainstorm? Is it next to a wetland? Maybe you think you have 10 acres, but the government says, well, we're really only going to let you build on maybe 2 acres, if that, because the rest of this backs to a creek, a swamp, a pond, or something like that, and we don't want you hurting any little turtles or anything. So it has the potential for the highest amount, but the key word here is feasibility. Make sure you don't own it for so long that the city grows up around it and they change the zoning on you or something like that. Yeah, so it's a big boys game. Last but not least is commercial real estate. It has the highest costs many times, but you do have stable tenants. If you owned a strip mall and there was a Staples and a Target store and a Walmart or something like that in there, they would stay for a long time, 20, 30 years or more. They pay all their own expenses. A lot of times they will improve the building themselves at their own expense. They pay the utility bills, the property tax possibly at their own expense. All you're doing is renting out the dirt, so it's not bad. The number one thing with commercial real estate is the local economy. Pay very close attention to the local economy because it's a long-term investment with big costs, and potentially if you're building something brand new, that's a huge amount of zoning, paving, and contracting, and lights, and plumbing, and all that kind of thing. Make sure you go into it with your eyes wide open. Some of my favorite commercial properties management is public storage is real good, nursing homes are good, and manufactured home parks are also real good. So keep those 3 in mind, and yes, I can help you buy any of those if you like, here or anywhere in the country. But digest some of this, what I've taught you, decide which one makes sense for you, or you can cross. I've gone back and forth between these, and that's okay too. Own one of each, and it's fun. And that's my crash course on what the heck to buy.